People still love the music, and I'm surprised after all these years. I really am. That the Four Tops, we can still sell out concerts. People come, their kids, who I call career babies. they heard that music when they was 2, 3, 4, 5, and it never got out of their head. So we've been very fortunate. Our music has lasted far greater and longer than I ever thought. Because I'm not a writer, I'm not a composer. I'm just a performer. And even back then in the 60s, when we first started selling records, I was wondering why the writers who wrote our songs were getting paid, and we weren't when I heard it on the radio. I always wondered why. I said, look, this is creative. I mean, what would that song be if we weren't on it? It'd be a piano playing and it'd be a nice sheet of music. I said, we should get paid as well. And back then, I tried to form a group to fight for that, because Barry Gordy, president of Motown, said, well, that's just the way it is. And I just never went for that. And so nowadays, seeing as it's coming to light that we're really living by old laws, and it's time for a change. When I go across the waters and still travel quite a bit and do concerts, I hear songs by friends of mine that have passed away, and they passed away begging for money. And those songs are still, advertisers are still buying radio time, listening to people listening to those songs. And it just hasn't been fair to me, so I'm a real fighter for that. And it's more or less now for the next generation, because whatever little bit I got, wonderful. A piece of the pie I got was delicious.
Music creators I find to be a very talented, bright, articulate, intelligent bunch. And I had the honor of working on Seinfeld. I worked on 75 primetime episodic network TV series. I started really, really young, and by the time I was 17, I was ready to move to Los Angeles and seek my career in music, and it ended up being as a composer for TV series. I never waited on tables. I was well trained when I got there and started working almost immediately. I was 17 when I arrived, and within weeks was working in the studios. Well, I wasn't working as a composer immediately. I was like a Swiss Army multi-purpose utility tool for musical chores for the first 10 years of my career, and that was really good training. Every series was unique, and my approach to each series had to be unique. There were 75 of them. The most famous ones are titles like Seinfeld and Will and Grace, Caroline in the City, Saved by the Bell, the college years. It's a long list. And each of those themes, I tried to create a sonic brand for the show. Seinfeld's a good example of that, how if you hear it, even from another room with your head in the refrigerator, there's a Pavlovian response. Ooh, what's that sound? Let's watch that show. And the message at Grammys on the Hill is that it brings not only entertainment value, it also brings monetary value to all businesses that touch it. Not just the producers and the broadcasters and the network, but to all kinds of other businesses. Like, for example, now, today, just for kicks, I did a Google search on the string Seinfeld music mashup. There was over 1 million separate results from that. That means that millions and millions of people, aside from the show, are enjoying the music, and that's great. We're happy that fans enjoy the music. But it's important that the creators and copyright holders of the music also enjoy a small part of the success that these companies are enjoying by using the music. It's important that the arts are supported, and those lawmakers that are here with us tonight get it. They understand the value of the arts. They're here with us, and I'm hopeful that they can carry that message to their colleagues who think otherwise. For example, you hear a lot of chatter about trade imbalances. The U.S. economy enjoys the benefits of an overwhelmingly lopsided trade imbalance advantage concerning music. We export way more music than we import, right? It's important that the message that we put out is not the false message that it's okay to devalue music. It's okay to use our most compelling U.S. copyrights without compensation, because that false message, if it comes from our lawmakers, it's not the fault of our overseas friends if they are inclined to agree with it.
I'm here because I can actually agree with this policy. I'm a big mercenary. I'm a big pragmatist, a libertarian, you might say. And I always believe in, you've got to support yourself as a band. But the way that the royalty rate has been for radio is actually, it's just not realistic in order to survive if you want to make recordings in today's market. And there's so many different technologies that need to be addressed. And there's also the issue of producers being artists. And as a performer who's never really been a producer, believe me, they really contribute to what an album is. And it might be hard to define, but we should at least work on defining it and have that discussion. As a pragmatist, I always feel like we're rolling a boulder up a hill. And that's what you're kind of supposed to do. You've got to fight for things that you want, and you got to make your case, and you got to try and be a loud voice. But it's going to take a long time. I think we're going to be working to be catching up. We're going to be playing a game of catch up. Well, the great thing about there's something different about all of them. Obviously, every single one of them is different. But it's finding that thing in common. From one player to another. Like I got to meet Clapton and play with him at the White House. It was a thing for Special Olympics with the Clintons, and it was cool meeting the Clintons. But that was Clapton. It's nice to meet a president, but that's God up there, And he's just a regular guy, and he liked to play. And you start throwing him the cues, and he throws you the cues, and you realize it's a language that really doesn't belong to any. There's no special Eric Clapton language. It's the language of an improvising musician. And I found that pretty much with everybody that I played with has worked their song. Santana said I sound like a salmon fighting its way up a waterfall, and I was just so blown away that he bothered to listen to me. And this is at a time when Bill Graham was our manager, and he said he remembers when Santana was so blown away by Muddy Waters said to him. And you realize you're kind of part of a generational thing. And I hope I seem to be getting a lot more due and proper than I used to. It's kind of a little awe-inspiring. I think it comes with getting old, and I just hope that I help out the next generation. I hope I can contribute productively.
When you reach this age, people start talking about honors and stuff, and it's always very flattering. But in the end, I'm just happy that I'm still here and still working. That's the main thing. Yeah, the same thing goes on in Britain. I mean, in some cases, Britain's slightly ahead in the sense that, America's the only country where radio stations don't pay for the music they play, which is one of the things we're trying to fix. Anywhere else in the world, you hear a band's record on the radio, you assume they're making a little bit of money, and they are. Here, they're not. Here, and I think it's Iran and North Korea are the only other places that don't pay artists when they play their records. So there's some things that we do need to fix. But, England, of course, has incredible reverence for the American music industry, because when we all fell in love with rock and roll, it's an American invention. When I started singing, I was in a duo in England when I began, and called Peter and Gordon, and we just wanted to be the Everly Brothers. American music is the be all and end all of pop music fandom. So the American industry for years defined the music business, and that's what I think some politicians perhaps fail to recognize, is that it's one of America's greatest inventions and greatest exports, and needs to be treated, very as well as humanly possible. Which is why I support, the funding for the arts in general and music in the schools and those things that are so important. That's where the next generation of musicians is going to come from. If Pharrell Williams hadn't been in his high school band, he probably wouldn't have delivered the gigantic exports and success for America that he has. So it's all part of one big picture. I don't think Britain views views it overall very differently. We love the music, we love rock and roll. It's just the same as America does.
I literally just got off a plane from Australia. I was out there touring. It's funny because I had the same conversation so much with a lot of press out there about music and music streaming and the arts. So of course I'm here to support the Academy and what they're doing, and I'm so appreciative of their stance to fight for artists, to fight for the arts. Growing up in school, it was my music teacher who saved me from, being in the streets and being around the wrong crowds, and he really advocated for me to follow my career when I didn't think that there was a possibility of me ever being a part of such a prestigious industry. But I'm here to fight for and to advocate for artists, writers, producers, up-and-coming artists. For instance, I'm still having disputes about a song I did years ago about publishing because writers or producers are fighting over such a small piece of pie, which is really bigger in the bigger scheme of things. But I think that if we can find a way to make it fair, then there wouldn't be those types of issues going on and inside of the music part of things, the business part of the music. So I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, so here in the DMV. I started singing in church at a young age. Well, I started singing in my grandmother's living room, and then that led to me singing in church in the Busy Bee Choir. And when I was 14, I was blessed enough to sit in front of Clive Davis and sing for him right after he signed. He had just started J Records at the time, and he had signed Alicia Keys, Carlos Santana, a bunch of other amazing artists. And I was one of the first artists to sign at J Records, and I got induced in the game by such a prestigious person, and so I learned a lot about music, and I've taken it from there.
A song is a song. It all boils down to kind of sometimes how you produce it, how it's sung. You can have a pop song that can even translate sometimes in a country music, in a country market, but I think what kind of binds us all together is that we're all creative people. And tonight is really about looking at the legislation and making sure that creative people are compensated for their work. Yeah, and ensuring that the next generation coming up can actually make a living producing, writing, and being artists. Well, it feels very natural for me to judge talent because I was somebody who signed artists, and I have a publishing company, Art House, so I've signed John Bellion, for instance, to it. So it's really, in the beginning, I'm always looking for that line or that thing that's different about that artist. And I think as a judge on American Idol, that's what we all did. We looked for that it factor, for that person who could, turn a line or invert a melody or something that made them stand out. Well, I think that sometimes you have to get criticism, constructive criticism, to get better. I know I was given that criticism early in my career, and it really helped me. Probably John Bellion right now, because I signed him for a songwriting for a publishing deal. But there have been others. I signed part of the Smeezingtons, Jason Derulo, different people. So yeah, it's fun. That's the best part, is when you can find talent early and help them. That's really what it's all about, and that's what tonight is about.
No, I think that music is such a great way of expressing so many emotions, and maybe it's the fact that we eat spicy food, so that's probably what makes it a bit hotter, I guess. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. Our daddy was Mexican. Our mom is American, so we have this duality to us. We're also here, because the Recording Academy invited us. We're not only Latin Grammy winners, we're also Grammy winners, and it was very important for us to be here tonight, also representing this other side of the music as Mexicans. We're going to be talking about tomorrow. I think that the arts is something in general, not only in music, but art in general is such a great escape for people, not only emotionally, but also for some of us, perhaps mentally as well. And it's something that I think affects a lot of people. So the fact that that's going to be addressed as well tomorrow makes me and my brother very happy, because we know that something great is going to come out of tomorrow being on the Hill. So hopefully, looking back in a few years, we can say we were part of that.
I am in a group called Pentatonics, and it's 5 people. It's a cappella. We also do pop music, and we do a lot of Christmas music as well. But we won a Grammy last year for a collab with Dolly Parton, and so that's why I'm invited here, and I'm doing my own music as well this year, so I'm excited. It was amazing. She is so phenomenal, the best person in the world. It's just amazing that a legend like that is just so gracious and so humble and so still loving of music,